Hi and welcome to the Forum Live and a Happy New Year. My name is Scott Haslam, President of the Leeds #1 Amalgamated Branch of the Communication Workers Union. And this session follows on from the national live sessions run this week by Chris Webb. And we felt very strongly that as a branch, we must ensure that we engage with you. And that is why we are one of the first branches to advertise this live session. Now, the Forum Live will give us this opportunity to engage with you. So especially when you consider the backdrop of the COVID national lockdown restrictions. So the structure of tonight's session will loosely mimic the national sessions, but all functions within our branch area are up for discussion tonight. So I'd like to introduce our panel. So we've got Chris Buttle, who should be just directly below me. He's the delivery area rep for the Leeds and Wakefield area. So hi, Chris, and welcome tonight.
Good evening.
We have Graham Pudsey, area processing reps in the Leeds Mail Centre. So hi, Graham, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. And Dave Hutchinson down there somewhere. He is your area distribution rep. Hi, Dave, and thanks again for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year to you.
Excellent. So, yeah, thanks for coming on tonight, guys. Particularly when it's a Sunday evening, and quite frankly, I'm sure we'll be discussing Sundays further at some point tonight. So, apparently, there's also a small football game taking place about 4:30. Liverpool or Manchester teams. I don't really know who they are. So, again, thanks for tonight. Right. So let's get this session going then. So the first question. We'll kick off, and then I can sort of have a look at what comments we've got. Is what do you think of the agreement as a whole, guys? And how do you see it benefiting the respective functions?
Now, I'll kick off, Scott. So for me, in processing agreement, it's a fantastic agreement for people. It's not many people outside getting pay deals and that. Getting job security. Job security to me is massive. Got job security till 2023, and then it'll be reviewed again. For me, in Mail Centre, we have to do a realignment. Realignment to me is we look at hours that we need, and at minute we're using 20% variable hours. If people don't understand what variable hours is, it's overtime and handguard. So to me, I want to make that into permanent contracts for people. So at minute, everybody from Christmas, the full time's been extended. That's going to get reviewed again in a few weeks, hopefully, with COVID and parcel increases. I'm hoping to keep them full time, but the realignment is technically to get more people full time. That's my aim.
It's quite important, that, isn't it? Because part times, quite frankly, are seem to be, or I think that they're left behind a little bit. But this agreement sort of really brings them to the forefront to get them uplifted hours, opportunities, and certainly we'll get the pay rise element when the shorter working week comes in as well. So it's fantastic news. Chris, have you got any extra comments on that?
From my point of view, Scott, I mean, with a lot of the units we've got major new build going in there. So with the revisions going in, it will help to start putting extra duties back into units and start to deal with issues.
Excellent. Dave, any extra comments from the distribution side?
Yeah, I think from a distribution point of view, obviously within our branch, within our section, we look after drivers and also quite a significant indoor operation at the Yorkshire Distribution Centre. For some time pre-COVID, we were actually going through the resource realignment process for the indoor operation at the YDC. And we actually got an in-principle agreement which recognised the growth as an LAT unit that were coming in from online shopping. Obviously, going on from that, we hit the COVID pandemic, and the volumes, as everyone knows, just went absolutely through the roof and beyond. And I think once this agreement, I presume, will be ratified by the membership going out shortly, I think it's a fantastic agreement. I've got to say, you know, even if you put the pay element that Graham made reference to there aside, and also the attached elements of the shorter working week, the job security is fantastic to secure that. And from a distribution point of view, I think revision activity will be welcomed from my point of view, purely because, you know, the CWU within this agreement, we've got a place back at the table. The wording in the agreement is that the CWU is involved at local sign-offs for all revision activity, which will be moving at pace, I think. And yeah, I've just done some figures briefly. Obviously, with the COVID pandemic, the agency increase, we already had a significant amount of agency, unfortunately, in distribution, network, area distribution, and the indoor operation at the YDC. I mean, the indoor operation at the YDC, the agency figures, which have gone through weeks 1 to 40 so far this year, it's averaging out at 6,600 plus per week. That equates to around 174 full-time roles, which is massive. Now, we are going to be recruiting, once we do our resource realignment, we won't be recruiting to all them, but as Graham said there, it's all about converting agency hours, the growth, converting that to AWD for our people, and new starters probably. Area distribution, similar theme in terms of agency. The average agency hours we've got per week for area distribution, which is our 7.5 ton fleet. This is just for Leeds and also the mini VOC that's based down there. We've got 1,302 hours average per week, which equates to around 30 plus full-time roles. So that needs addressing. That's huge for us. That needs addressing, and hopefully with the acceptance of this deal, we'll be able to go back to the business with our revisions and say, before we start talking about anything duty-wise, we need to address the significant agency figures we've got in all our functions.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the whole encompass of the agreement is about growth, and that's exactly it. Where we've seen the growth in the company, it's been taken up really initially by by overtime hours, and then the shortfall is then it's gone out to agency over the last sort of 10 months, and we've seen that and experienced that while we've been on the floor. So, I mean, in particular, they've actually been contracting out in the distribution and network functions because they just couldn't get the agency staff to cover the work. So, absolutely, and it's going to be a real opportunity there, isn't it, for uplifting part-timers to full-time hours, but equally external recruitment to bolster up the company workforce and hopefully grow the union membership within our offices as well. So that's fantastic. Chris, in terms of the delivery side, do you see the uplifting part-time to full-time being a similar sort of story in that function?
It will be as soon as all the guidelines come out, so we can actually work with the guidelines for it. Then as soon as we can get that, then the answer will be we'll be looking in every single unit to push people from part-time to full-time.
Excellent. Excellent. Did you manage to watch Mark Bolsher's session the other day?
Yes, I did. I did watch it, and it was pretty good. And he actually said everything what needs to be said at this moment in time to explain things to the membership.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't watch it live, but I watched it in playback. Which actually, if you do miss this live session or you have to drop off at any point, come back to the page and you'll be able to view it, or go to the YouTube channel and it'll be there to watch again if you so wish. So I think what we'll do is move on to, we've had a couple of questions sent in externally from our branch. So we'll move on to the first question, I think, from our member, and it's from Matthew Hall from the Wetherby office, and he sent a question about the removal of oversized parcels from DOs. Now, what he's actually asked is, will up to 15% of the oversized be taken out of some DOs, or will these remain within the office? So initially, the there'd be no oversize, I don't believe, coming out of any office. And the reason why I'm saying that is, quite frankly, it does say in the agreement that the new parcel hubs won't be opening until 22, 23. So currently, it'll go through the normal streams, is my understanding. Do you share that understanding, Chris?
I mean, my understanding is that, and then again, is with the guidelines coming out, that's what then will break everything again for us, so we know exactly what's running from where, and also what we need to do for each unit to get them to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I'll just come in on there as.
I'll just come in. I think we lost Chris briefly.
I'll just come in, Scott, regarding obviously the 15% that they reckon work we're going to lose to go to these parcel hubs, and that people need to understand that tracked volumes is up 100% in most mail centres and RDCs. So in effect, we're not going to lose 15% of work because we're gaining already. So people were panicking first that there's going to be a reduction in hours in a delivery office, mail centre, RDC, YDC. It ain't going to be because of the growth of parcels. Like I say, tracked volumes are up 100%.
Yeah, it's massive growth. I'd like to pick up a couple of comments that we've got coming in from Facebook and YouTube. One's from Chris Pollock, know him well, from YDC Driver. He'd like to ask, will we be getting a parcel hub in our area? I don't believe we will, but there might be some modernising at YDC. But do you want to say your thoughts on that, Dave?
Well, obviously, we know that one of the main hubs is going to be at the northwest in Warrington. I'm not sure the YDC will become a parcel hub as such. I think at the moment, it's the YDC is operating to capacity. It certainly has been through the pandemic, and there's no signs as such as the volumes going back to where they were. I think they're still quite buoyant, but I think for the foreseeable future, I mean, what's come out of the pandemic and the volumes for the Ox Distribution Centre is that it's probably too small and it's possibly outgrown itself. But obviously, the investments there in the YDC, looking at new automation and things like that. So I would hope that the YDC is fairly secure for a number of years going forward. And as part of the national working group that I sit on for the indoor operation, what does happen is that they tend to make sure Royal Mail, the guys who sit on the national group from Royal Mail, that the work is shared out. They don't like to have machines stood idle, if you like. They make sure that work is continually being moved around if need be. So I think it's quite a positive, out of adversity, really, the pandemic. And when Graham opened up, there's a lot of other companies going under, and people unfortunately made redundant. I think from our point of view, like I say, out of adversity, I think we are quite secure with the parcels and the the equipment that we've got in the RDC certainly now is allowing new customers to come into us and post their traffic through us. I'm not sure if that's answered Chris's question, in fairness, but
I think he understands what you're saying. I certainly do. So a couple more questions has come in. So Dave Johnson asks, can we realistically have revisions during a pandemic? Well, I suppose the answer is realistically, we might have to, but equally, in terms of a planning side of stuff, what's the issue with the pandemic? As long as social distancing is adhered to. Do you see any issues we have in any form of revision activity within any of the sites in line with the agreement during certainly the pandemic?
The plan is to start planning now, so that when we finally get out of COVID, hopefully later on, then we can start implementing these into the positions where they need to be. That's the whole idea, is that we start planning now, so that we're actually, when we can get it into it, when we're coming out of COVID, we can actually implement the revisions into the units to get where we need to be.
Yeah. Now, and this is, I think, the key, isn't it? I mean, certainly within the network side, I mean, I'm currently on paternity leave. I mean, thanks for Dave for your kind comment about my newborn. But when I come back, the agreement says about planning for a network revision. So, and it's going to tie in nicely, actually, with, I think, Simon's comment as this statement, because what Simon asked is how the reduction worked for the logistics side. So when I come back, we're going to be doing a revision plan based on current live information, but it does say with an agreement 12 months later, we're going to be having another revision, which is what networkers pretty much come used to doing. So even now doing a revision in the pandemic, if it's to do with volumes, then, 12 months down the line, then, they'll recalibrate everything. So I think that's fine. But in terms of that revision, once that revision is deployed, I mean, Dave, tell me if I'm understanding this correctly, but once that revision is deployed, that will trigger the hour reduction for network drivers. So in terms of network drivers and that hour reduction, they won't actually get a reduction in the hours per se, but what they will do is get an extra hour in their wage packet every week, or paid on block per month, as they did do the last time. And the certainly intention or aspiration, certainly from the department, which David Roberts has said on Tuesday, is that the intention is to buy back once we get to the same number of hours back, and actually drop us down to perhaps a 36.25 hour gross where we get paid meal breaks. So in effect, that would reduce our working week. So I hope that would you agree with that as a statement, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely correct there, Scott. As Simon and other network drivers from our branch and beyond will be aware that when we first went into the 4 pillars agreement, every full-timer took an hour off the working week. For network drivers, because as you explained there, we are on a 36 hours, 15 core week with unpaid meal reliefs. The first hour was actually the equivalent hour in cash as a cash uplift. So in actual fact, with a second pay rise, that's exactly what will happen with this second hour for us and everybody else. Network drivers such as Simon and yourself and myself, in fact, will have the cash equivalent of an hour. And I think going forward, we'll have to see what happens with that. I know David mentioned it, as you say, last week on his Facebook Live session. But yeah, it'll be the equivalent of an hour paid on the deployment of the network 21 revision.
Excellent. That's acknowledgement from Chris there, Dave. That appreciates the answer.
Yep.
Another question here. I don't know who this illustrious Stephen Norton is. Mr. Knocker, hello. Hi guys, do we know what model week will be used for revision activity? So this really will probably go across all functions. So particularly for processing in the YDC, but processing in the mail center as regards deliveries. Any update on the revision activity as well? So where do you want to start? Graham, do you want to try and answer that from a processing side?
I know on processing side, I know Steve Halliwell fronted up negotiations, and there's a formula out there how to do a revision costs. Obviously, we can't look at traffic that we've had this year, costs at pandemic, but Steve Halliwell says there's a formula out there that will look at 2019 figures, and then you look at what's happened over less than 10 months, and then we get a percentage, but that's all to come out yet. But I know Steve Halliwell, he were on processing side, so there's something out there. But for me, we need a realignment costs. We haven't had one for a couple of years, and we need proper people in proper jobs in mail centre. Can't rely, like Dave said, 6,000 hours in RDC. We're running same or more in mail centre, and it's unsustainable. Managers can't manage it, and we need same people coming in every day to do a proper job and get paid properly for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
agree.
just to come in on that, Scott, if I can, I think
Yeah,
I mentioned
absolutely.
earlier regarding the Yorkshire distribution indoor operation. Prior to the pandemic, certainly, and probably prior to us falling out with Royal Mail when Rico Back were in charge, we had an in-principle agreement. I think we were the first RDC to get that, and we were ready to go live. We signed it. We signed the in-principle off, and we were waiting for the sanction of the shorter working week for our indoor people. That didn't happen, and we ended up in another trade dispute with Royal Mail. But we, as Graham said there, we had a formula for the RDCs, and it was based on average agency hours. I think our model week for most, our model week at the YDC were week 52. And I think most RDCs were around that area. So we planned all our revision activity on week 52. And that were going to result in about 25 new jobs. So I think the model week will change. I'm not sure if it'll change purely down to COVID, or there is a recognition that there's been a massive increase in volume, but you wouldn't resource and recruit to a national pandemic, because obviously I think they expect them volumes to drop once we come out of the pandemic. But there is a formula. It is quite easily, once you get your head around it, is quite easily to work out. We had full involvement with the local reps in the YDC, met with the business on many occasions, and once you find the model week, you can plan your staffing base from that. It will mean an increase, certainly the YDC, in new people. I mean, I think we're carrying about 1,100 hours vacancies in the YDC indoor operation currently. But yeah, it's about, as Graham says, it's about putting the people where the work is. And I know Chris is probably going to speak on the Sunday working element of the delivery part of the agreement. But we're fully aware that in the YDC, we're going to have people working on core hours on a Sunday afternoons and Sunday nights. And, so long as you can make them duty attendance times favourable, so our people can think, make it a 4-day or a 4-night or whatever, so our people get more time off work or can come in and do additional hours if they want. You've got to try and get that work-life balance for people when you're having people committing to working weekends.
From the delivery side of it, again, it will be under the guidelines for a new model week, which also Graham and Dave's already said is regarding the hours, what were the volumes, what came in pre-COVID with an overlay of COVID, to have a look at it with a percentage there. So from that point of view, it will be exactly the same now when we're going to a model week, and then we'll agree the model weeks and we'll work from there.
Can I just come back in, Scott? And I'll just, because we're mentioning model week, and a lot of people might not know what a model week is. Model week is, we have to look at a set hours that we've used in a week. So obviously we take the Christmas pressure weeks out, any bank holidays out, or any weeks like Valentine, Father's Day, Mother's Day, them weeks come out, and then we get an average of the hours that we've used over rest of them weeks.
Cool. Sorry, I think my internet connection dropped there, so I had to laugh funny about that. Right, we're back. The technology, we love it, don't we? Whereabouts did we get to, guys?
Establishing the model week for all functions, that would probably all agree that we'll be revisiting the model week. Can you hear me?
Right, okay. Yes, that's fine. Right, okay. Right then, so I've got a question from Paul Stowe. He asks if there's a plan to put a second parcel machine in the mail centre, Graham.
At the minute, there's no plans. There's been 16 deployed, and there's another 4 to be deployed this year. So business ain't come and said they want any more parcel machines. I know there's 4 more sites. I don't know. I know 2 of them is Newcastle and Nottingham. They're getting 1, and there's another 2. That takes us up to 20 sites with parcel machines. But at this moment in time, we've nothing in place for another parcel machine.
Right.
I think we need one at times. Could do with one on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And
I suppose
then
that's the problem with these machines, isn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? You can't just lift them in and drop them in for a day or so. You've got to be there and justify for a week. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a comment from A to Z. I think that might be Andy Young. Might be wrong. But I'd love to see part-time go to full-time in delivery revisions, but is it realistic to expect that if litters are going down and parcels automated and sorted to walk in the next year or two, indoor work will decrease? I mean, do you think that's a agreeable statement, Chris, or do you think it's perhaps not considering fully the volume of growth that the company has actually experienced?
It's a volume of growth, to be truthful, with the parcels, because that's the whole idea, is that we're moving more to a parcel company. You know, Royal Mail and CWU have also admitted already that we have, you know, as declining letters is really being hit with COVID. But at the same point is we have got a lot of things still to run from. And then what Teddy's turned around and said is they want to look at other opportunities for people on deliveries, whatever that could be. You know, I don't know, it might be picking a prescription up from chemist for somebody. Could be anything like that, which is part of being the community, which has kept us going through COVID as it is.
I think on that as well,
Yeah.
Chris, I don't think parcels will be getting sorted to delivery rounds, will they, when they come in? It's just going to be sorted to a delivery office, and then you're still going to have the inward workload to sort them parcels to each walk. I don't think these machines, they won't have the capacity to sort parcels to a walk.
No, you're right, Graham, and that our indoor work won't change that way around until they do something like that. But I think that years away is that type of machinery.
We've got a comment and question from Pete Britt. Deliveries will be the hardest to get proper revisions, as not all do job properly, take breaks, use equipment free, work ghosting, etc., etc. What steps are there to ensure revisions are not to cut up jobs with full-time hours and hours cut and such? Comment
So
on that,
again,
Chris?
yeah. So again, is the problem we've got is these individuals out there what do come in early. There's individuals out there what don't take the breaks, and you know, for us to actually get somewhere with this and make people from part-time to full-time, which they really should be. This is the issue which we start sorted out, and the people need to stop doing what they're doing so that we actually can see exactly what's going on in units with people having the breaks and people not starting before the time.
So certainly what we're saying there is we need to start, if you're not already, following, doing the job properly. Yeah. Absolutely, Dave.
I mean, just on that, just to comment on that really, is within the overall agreement, and we said it earlier that, you know, the CWU are involved in all revisions, you know, where we've not got local reps, the area rep steps in, etc. So the CWU will be involved in every revision, in every function. That's one of the key factors of the agreement, I think. So we're in it from the planning stages right up to deployment stages of all revisions for me.
And also as well, Scott, when we get the AHDC auto hours data capture into places like in delivery offices, them hours will get captured because it'll show that people are starting early. So then them hours can be actually built in. So managers can't say, oh, we don't know about people starting early when it's there, and we should be able to use that to our own advantage for hours worked.
Yeah. We've got Abda's messaged us and on Facebook, and he asks, is there any plans to move the YDC to accommodate for more automation, i.e. any form of parcel machines and the additional units and trailers that seem to run out daily? So I think we answered that partly early, Dave, didn't you, in regards, becoming a parcel hub.
Yeah.
But it's certainly the sort of wider prospects of additional units and trailers. So that's, if I'm right in saying, it's all down to the O license. So you can't have any more than what the O license will have. And in fairness, you'll only be putting work into those offices during the revision based on your O license. So although we've had massive growth, I don't realistically see that will supersede our O license, because legally we're not allowed to do that. So is there any other comments on that which maybe I've missed off, or you could address Abda's concerns?
If Abda will probably know that during the peak period, the YDC acquired sort of 2 additional sites, one at Church Fenton, which I didn't go to, but I was aware we were parking vehicles up there off-site because of the O licence restrictions. And also I think we parked some and worked out of the Sheffield parcel centre. Is that right, Scott? I think. And to be honest, within, I'll quote the agreement again, there's no mention of any mail centre closures or RDC closures. I mean, I'm not sure. For me, the YDC, and as most of you know, that's my parent office, if you like, and it moved there in November 2000, and it's in a prime location for motorway networks. The A1, the M62, the M1. It's all there. It's in a great location. Ideally, with the amount of volumes that's coming in now, we would like it to be a bigger site, because on a couple of occasions during the peak period, we had to sort of stop processing to clear the backlog. But I think every RDC did, in fairness. It wasn't just the YDC, but there's no mention of the YDC moving to accommodate growth. I think some people may be fearful when the Northwest Hub gets up and running with the huge machine that they're having put in there. Will it impact on the YDC? Well, I mean, to be fair, they will want that machine running 24/7. But the amount of volumes that we're dealing with as a company now, we're changing our delivery methods to accommodate parcel growth. I believe that the YDC is in the right place, but there's no mention, to my knowledge, of it moving or extending. We could do with an extension on back, that's clear, but I think the canal's preventing that, to be fair, Scott.
On that as well, though, Scott, what you have to think of as well, people are fearful of this Northwest Hub with parcels and that, but there's 3 mail centres round that Northwest Hub. There's Manchester, Warrington and Preston. So you've to come 2 hours up M62 to get to Leeds to take some mail down. Yeah. So I think Leeds area will be last on list to lose any work cost. They'll go to them mail centres first, which are close by and easier. Because people need to understand, if you're moving work about, it costs money, doesn't it?
Cool. It does, absolutely. So we've got another comment from a Martin Hill, and he asks, it comes up,
at the moment, the answer is we don't know until the guidelines come out for revisions and how we plan it from there.
Looking forward, with the increase in parcel volumes, how do you see the roles of non-drivers? So I think that's more aimed towards Chris, but how do you see the introduction of the the parcels and obviously more parcel duties and that?
It all depends regarding the revisions, how the revisions run and how they work, and then from there is what a non-driver does. From that point of view, it's like everything else which has happened in the future, in the past, how we build the duties up for drivers and non-drivers.
Right. Yeah. So again, it's this framework, what you've cited a couple of times, is quite key, isn't it, going forward? So, right, what we got? We got CSP hours being cut during the pandemic. Are Royal Mail attempting a backdoor cutting of hours, or is this a temporary whilst in lockdown? I don't know. Is that something that you've seen experience within the Leeds and Wakefield area, Chris?
Yeah, all CSPs, which is customer service points, which is your callers officers, they've all had shorter times of up. From my point of view, I'm looking at the moment because we're in COVID. From there onwards, once we're out of COVID, I cannot understand why they won't open up here again.
Right.
They'll have to open longer though, won't they, Chris? Cost
So
people won't be working from home.
The answer is probably, but Royal Mail do want more and more people to another day delivery, doing the in-flight stuff or getting the parcel redelivered on a different day.
Yeah. So it's a bit glitchy tonight, is this technology, I think. My internet's down. So Stuart Hardy, I think, tied in to one of the points we were going to discuss about the Sundays. So what Stuart asked, what are the proposals for the introduction of Sunday parcels? He understands, it's voluntary to start, but what are our long-term views on that? I mean, we were going to discuss that actually. And I think there's a key video, isn't there, that Martin Walsh actually put out the other day. So I think there's a sample there I'd like to play, if that's all right, guys. And he covers off his thoughts on the Sunday. So we'll see what he says on that, and then we'll pick it up. When it comes.
I want to tackle the Sunday issue because the agreement says quite clearly.
Well, maybe won't. Maybe the technology isn't there.
There does need to be a real debate in the union.
Well,
how do we
it's going, Scott.
Capture growth on Sundays? At the moment, our pay for working Sundays is higher than it is Monday to Saturday, and Royal Mail will not launch a product to the customer, which means they have to pay more.
So we'll carry on
receiving a parcel on a Sunday than they do Monday to Saturday. So there's a real discussion to be had on that. We're confident we can get the right agreement, which does retain voluntary working, maybe innovative duty structures where people can work less days, but we can't handle Sunday over to the competitors to just basically go and deliver. We've got to try and capture growth in that area.
Right. Did we actually air all that video? Because I think
it all played. Scott did that. Yeah, I think there's a delay. I think there's a delay from yourself to ourselves, Scott. But no, the video played. I mean, my input into the Sunday delivery issue, which was
Graham, Chris, Dave.
Yeah, can you hear me, Scott?
Hello.
We can hear you, Scott.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you can't hear us.
Oh, good. It must have. But
you keep going out, Scott. Can you hear us, Scott?
I think we'll do it without Scott, Dave. Carry on.
I mean, yeah, sorry.
It's a miss. Like I say, it must be my internet connection.
So my thoughts on the on the Sunday deliveries are that, you know, other parts of the business, in fairness, have started putting Sundays in for some time now. You know, processing and taking the new products on. I get the contentiousness for delivery people. It is voluntary initially. I mean, Chris will put some more meat on the bones, but it is voluntary initially. But I think there's a way you can do it, and I think Martin Walsh mentioned it, that, you know, you make for somebody having to give up the Sunday to work as duty, then you make the whole duty more attractive, whether that's a 3 or 4 day job, you know, workload permitting. So you give our people who commit to that Sunday more time away from work. That will be the way to do it, and it's be phased in. I mean, we had a conversation amongst ourselves this morning, you know, just checking up all the connections, which we thought were working. We had a conversation this morning, and we believe, you know, if the deal's ratified, it's not going to change overnight. It's not going to change the day after. Everyone's going to be working Sunday because the capacity won't be there initially. But I do think that, you know, it will grow and evolve, and there's a way to manage that, you know, to everyone's expectations. And, you know, if we get in a position where we're bringing new jobs in deliveries, then possibly them new jobs would involve a Sunday working, and the question will be to new starters, this is a job, this is where we are now. Do you want the job or move on to anybody else? I mean, Royal Mail, in my opinion, is still a big pull in terms of you know, getting people to come and work from you've seen by the pay deal what a good trade union can get for its members in Royal Mail, and it will happen. But I probably stole some of Chris's thunder there, in fairness. So apologies.
No, you're all right, Dave. You know, you said it pretty well there. Yeah. I mean, look, we've got to look at this way around. I mean, we've got as competitors out there on a Sunday delivering. Also, on top of it now is we are now doing COVID collections on a Sunday. So we have started to do Sundays in deliveries. Yes, you're all right, Dave. We have to look at it that way around, with putting duty structures in there where they're enticing to the members to say, I'll have a bit of that. But at the moment, the answer is it will be voluntary to start with, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think we sort of share this view, and I've shown Michael that Sunday parts are exactly how the union go to protect jobs. So, I mean, Graham, did you cover off in terms of the weekend working that you've currently got in the Mel Centre, and how that has benefits members in that unit?
Well, at Mel Centre, Scott, we've had weekend working since, I think, in 90s when it first come in, or 80s even. It's there, it's popular. We have a lot of people with young families, so both parents can work. One works weekends and then other works during week. There's a lot of flexible workings that move on to weekends. We have got workload there. Like I touched on before, we've got agency in Saturday after. I were in yesterday afternoon. There were agency in yesterday afternoon. There's agency in today. So the work's there, and in Mail Centre, people want to do it as well. So I think people just panicked with deliveries that everyone had to work Sundays, but it ain't gonna be. But we need to keep up with your DPDs and Amazon, don't we? And if they can deliver on a Sunday, why can't we?
Exactly. Although, if you experience from what I was speaking to before, Graham, DPD local, as it happened, due to turn up between 3:30 and 4:30, turned up over my road, other side of where I live, took a picture of the address opposite, got back in his van, and then drove off. So I wasn't quite happy about that, but nevertheless, you know, I suppose that's the premium you pay for Romel members. So. Right, I was just going through some of the other questions. So, what we got? Sundays. Someone else, Terry Boner. Terry's have to be a no-brainer going forward. So again, more members sort of accepted and looking at that. Right, we got as a local rep. So Steve Norton's got another question there. As a local rep, I think all functions need to realise we must adapt to the 24/7 operation. This is our livelihood. Our competitors are doing this now. What's the saying? Overcome and adapt. I think we've sort of, it sounds like the processing in the Mail Centre Leeds and the YDC has sort of adapted quite well over the last few years, and maybe that's what's happening with deliveries. It's going to evolve a little bit, perhaps. So,
I mean, just to come on Steve's comment there, Steve Norton, for those who are not aware, is one of the network reps along with yourself, Scott, at the YDC.
Yeah.
And we went into a professional drivers agreement for the heavy goods fleet in 2007, and the business got very excited about getting us all working weekends, cut all the overtime out. It never happened because the union guys, both yourself, Steve, and the other main rep, Richard Billingham, along with the sub reps, negotiated a set of duties that were very, very welcome by our members. 3 and 4 day working, still 5 day working, some of it incorporating weekends. I mean, we just on the indoor operation only a couple of months back, before we sort of fell out with the business again, we advertised for, I think, 15 Sunday to Wednesday indoor shifts, Sunday to Wednesdays, and we got every one of them filled straight away. We're waiting to deploy them, and we'll be deploying them as part of the resource realignment. And that were purely to accommodate new customers posted into the YDC on a Sunday. And that'll also happen on a Saturday, so that Saturday traffic has to be delivered on a Sunday, and we have to look at that. And you know, the questions come in. I think that the more positives than negatives, and so long as we're involved as a trade union in agreeing them working arrangements, you know, it's got to be positive, and you know, it will give our people something that they haven't had before. You know, on deliveries potentially 3 and 4 day working.
That's cool. There's a comment here from Yvonne McCall. It kind of works on top of that, because if the Sundays comes in, and again, we network and the revisions accordingly. So what Yvonne asks is, how long will it be before there's a full re-sign? So I suppose that'd be dependent on what office, what function, and really when the revision is due to go live. So, I mean, certainly from a network perspective, there will be a network revision in the sort of February, March time, with a view of initially April as a deployment date, although David Robertson did allude to that the business, because of the national lockdown and COVID restrictions, may push that back a little bit further, perhaps May or even June. So that'll be where you'll be looking at a full revision within the network sites. In terms of the other sites, I don't know if you want to cover off within the mail centre, Graham, any expectations for re-signs there?
I don't think we'll be having a repick, Scott, because it's not going to affect a certain percentage of duties.
Right.
It'll be just new jobs, really. But I will be looking at some, obviously the shorter working week. I'll be looking to do that, so we work a 7-hour 24 every day to come away from what I agreed last time. And also, I will be trying to get some 4-day duties. Can't promise anything, but I am working on some innovative 4-day duties. So, because I know people want to spend less days at work. We have got colleagues who travel a long way now with mail centre rationalisation, got people from York and Bradford, so their expectations is not to be travelling as many days, so
yeah,
I shall try and get them
4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fantastic 4-day working, because if you think about it in terms of numbers and bank holidays, you know, you're getting a quarter of your week off for one bank holiday, aren't you? And you get 8 of them. So you add that, that's 2 weeks off a year you're potentially getting. So they're fantastic in that regards. Chris, in terms of re-signs in delivery units, of course, the Leeds Inner and Wakefield areas, it is dependent on the type of revision activity that's going off, because as I understand it, there's kind of like tabletop tweaking on some of the offices, and then there's going to be more sort of structural changes in some of the larger units. Is that about right?
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right there, Scott, and that's what it'll be. It all depends on what type of revision each unit will go into. If it then deems for a repick, then we'll go under the way forward agreement regarding that. It all depends on how much changes has to be done in each unit for that.
Excuse me.
Cool. I think we're best off referencing Asger. If you don't know who Asger is, Asger Khan is our political officer. He's still waiting to become the Lord Leeds Mayor, but due to the COVID situation, that's not happening yet. But he'd like to say, well, thank you to all the staff and our members who have gone, quite frankly, above and beyond the call of duty. So thank you for that, Asger. So, next, I think we'll put on the one of the next questions about the CEO. So Jonathan Matthews sent in a comment regarding the new CEO, and what he asked was, will the new CEO confirm his commitment to honour the agreements of his predecessors? So we have a short video, well, a snippet from Monday night's session as it happens. So we'll play that, and I think Terry and Dave will sort of cover that off quite quickly.
We feel that the change that's been made today is a necessary change. It will be positive for the agreement, because there's no way that the company have made that change without having a view about the future. So I think one of the things that they've recognised is that perhaps capability in Royal Mail, in terms of creating this mindset change amongst management, that growth is the way to go, and that actually you can improve productivity, improve efficiency, obviously improve revenue by growing the business. I think we've got to recognise that they've come to a view, the chairman, the chair of the company and the board, that they need to bring in new skills, is the truth. We're confident that it's not going to affect the agreement.
We've always been fighting for growth and ambition. And for a while there, the Royal Mail board were on the line of, no, it's all about managing decline, job losses, and just shifting totally into parcels. And you know, for want of a better phrase, the penny dropped, and the psychology changed. The philosophy has to change. What it is we're about. Is it about ambition? Is it about growth? Is it about this? And clearly the agreement reflects that did. There was a genuine understanding. So the CEO move was sort of quicker, took us by surprise. I only learned about it myself yesterday evening. But you can only assume that the board are part of a big decision like that. The board are part of that decision. This guy was on the board. People have only got to look at his CV, and it's all been about growth and digital and retail. And of course, our agreement is also about how can we expand the role of a postal worker on the doorstep, which is the direction of travel. We've seen that on all different types of things in life, people having stuff brought to them. So you can only assume that this guy's been appointed because he's going to bring a lot to the table in terms of the growth agenda.
So, yeah, I think that pretty much covers off whether the formal question hasn't been put to the new CEO, but I think there is, I think the feelings and the circulation at the top is that he's there because of the agreement, not instead of the agreement. So in terms of any more questions, if you haven't, if you've got a question, just leave it in the comments below, and then I'll pick it up and we can carry on for the last sort of 5 to 10 minutes of the session. Funny enough, I've noticed that the number of viewers have actually gone up since Liverpool and Manchester have kicked off. So that can only be a positive, I think. Right, so there was Mark, I think it was Mark. Yeah, Mark Harrison asks, are there any plans to bring 4-day working in and the VOC? So I presume that's the mini VOC in Leeds, Dave.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mark. I think we've actually may have one in already, but I'm not 100%. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the mini VOC, the VOC based at Leeds has, I think, around 18 duties. They're now tagged to the YDC in terms of the PSP system. So yeah, I think this year when we do a network review nationally, I think for the first time, and I may be wrong, but I think for the first time, the Leeds VOC, mini VOC, will be involved in the overall planning. So I know we've sort of muted it for a couple of years, but it may be that the structure they've got at the mini VOC, where we do service DOs, service hubs and do hub feeders, and collection work. We may go beyond that, and you may see something a bit more outlandish in terms of where our VOC drivers in Leeds go to. But certainly, to answer your question, Mark, yeah, innovative duties. The work has to be there. We can't just say we want all 3 and 4 days. You have to have structured work there to warrant putting these type of duties in. The 3 and 4 day working duties in driving, yeah, legally you can do them. They're not for everyone, I've got to say. The 3 days are a long shift, but yeah, there'll need to be some options there, but certainly along the 5 days as well. But it may be that, with Sunday deliveries, when it takes off, at some junction in the future, we might have to address how we service DOs. I mean, I know we do have some Saturday services into DOs, but it may be, it's not just going to be, I've got to say, in my opinion, it's not just going to be that Sundays start deliveries start delivering on a Sunday, but everything else will have to evolve alongside that. So from the processing the mail, collecting the mail, it's going to be quite a all new ball game for us. But we've got everything in place to combat that revision activities. Every function has its own terms of reference for revision activity, so I don't think there's anything to fear. But yeah, I think we can look at some alternatives kind of duties at the mini VOC, no problem.
Cool. So we're coming to close for this session, this live session. I think it's been quite useful. It's also been trumped with bugs and gremlins, but more so at my side. But we'll get through that. So I think we won't necessarily finish on this, but we've talked about revisions, and particularly how revisions will tie into repick and such. But there's been concerns about revisions where there isn't a rep in situ. So what I would say from my perspective as president of the branch is that we do recognise that this situation isn't ideal, but fortunately it isn't a widespread issue, and in general it seems specific more to some delivery officers, although not lots of delivery officers, fortunately. But what I can confirm is that we've, at the branch, consulted with the SDGS department, the Senior Deputy General Secretary Department, who have probably agreed that we commence some sort of phased approach to branch elections, and the branch committee will finalise how we do this once it's okayed with headquarters. And then obviously we'll communicate that out. So just a peace of mind more than anything else, that we will more than likely request that we advertise the vacant local rep positions only, so at least we can get someone in position and quickly trained up best we can, supported by your area reps, to start with that revision activity. But ultimately, should there still be an office without a rep, then one of the area reps will be involved with those negotiations. So, if you are interested in becoming a rep, do contact the branch, and we'll endeavour to support you in how you can become a rep and all the training what goes with it. Is there any comments you'd like to add on that, guys?
No, I mean you've said it where it is. I mean, from our point of view, is it's better to have a rep in a unit what understands that unit better, which then knows where things are to help us with the revisions. Because not being funny is if I have to go into a unit, I'm going to have to ask for people's help because I don't know the area like they do.
Exactly. It's quite important that people come forward really if they're at least vaguely interested in becoming a rep, because they won't be left by themselves, and we'll support them best we can. There was a quick comment there about social distancing, work time learners and huddles harder to do. So in effect, is there any future plans around these issues? Well, it's just social distancing unfortunately is there, so it does make things like this more difficult, but as soon as things relax, these restrictions relax, then we'll be pushing for them to go in. Are we aware that like to work time learnings will be removed, guys?
No, I've heard nothing. Work time learnings are still there. If we do any realignment, the 30 minutes will be still put on a duty. So there's nothing from my end that the 30 minutes will be took out. They're still there, but just unfortunately, we can't have them at minute. Huddles are hard to do because of work areas. I know the odd manager will go around and speak to a few people at a time if there's a massive that we need to get across.
Cool. Thanks for that comment, Stuart. But certainly, I think we need to thank these three: Graham, Chris, and Dave, because I think to be fair, I ain't been working this week. It's only been the last couple of days since the Bairns come that I've been doing anything. But yeah, thanks for all your nice comments there. And I think we'll come to a close now, if we may. If there's any final thoughts, Graham, Dave, Chris.
Just one from me, very briefly. Then, if we're going to wrap it up, just for you, Scott, it's been a great session. This, I think, it's the first one we've done as a collective, area reps collective, and I think it's something we can do going forward. It might be something that we can do when we get the deal ratified and start looking at revisions for more information share. But yeah, it's been great. I think the only thing now from me is really the agreement needs to be carried as part of the national ballot. We've agreed as branch officers that it's the right agreement for us. And yeah, thanks again for setting it up, and congratulations again on the new baby.
Thank you. Chris, Graham, any comments?
Yeah, just really reiterate what Dave branches saying for people to vote. Yeah, I think it's been good for people. I know there's been a few watching. We'll do them again if people want them. If they want to ask us questions, that's what we're here for, to answer their questions, so they can think it's a good platform to get information out there for people.
Excellent. Anything from you, Chris?
No, just exactly what Dave and Graham said is, we need people to vote yes, so we can start moving forward on this, and I'm quite happy to do these type of sessions in the future.
Cool. So if you've seen any circulation of the key points, this is from the North East Divisional Rep. I suggest that you go ahead and read those key points on the pay and the culture and everything else, along with the session that we've had today. So I'd like to thank you three for joining me tonight. I'd like to thank all you for joining us online, wherever you may be. And remember, unity is strength. Thanks for watching.